I'm Steve B. I'm a 58-year-old alcoholic. I am a licensed pharmacist by training and also have a PhD in pharmacology. Have spent time as a community pharmacist, done some work in hospitals, went to grad school, got my degree, and then I was in academics for about 10 years. And about 24 years ago, left the academic setting and went into the private sector.
What brings you to SeabrookHouse?
What brought me to SeabrookHouse was that I started drinking in my 20s, as a lot of my friends did. Did the usual weekend during college, weekend drinking, and certainly drank more than I should have, but at the time thought that I was drinking the same that my friends were drinking as well. And certainly had my share of hangovers early on, but didn't really consider it as being problematic. Did not interfere with my going to school, didn't interfere with my work and what have you. Back about 15 years ago, I went into a depression and started self-medicating myself with alcohol, which only made the depression worse. Finally sought the aid of a psychiatrist and was put on antidepressant medication. And there for a little while actually did stop drinking, but didn't do anything over and above stopping drinking. After about 3 years, I restarted and actually accelerated my drinking pattern to the extent that I started drinking primarily on weekends, but every once in a while, even during the week. And about 5 years ago, I started to accelerate even that, so that evening drinking became more and more commonplace. Not necessarily to the point of always getting drunk, but certainly to the point of more than I should have, and enough to cause me to sleep very well, better than what I probably should have. And that went on until about a year ago. And about a year ago, without my fully realizing it, my drinking really started to accelerate. So it was absolutely every evening. It was almost as though I couldn't get to sleep without drinking. I frequently would wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just so that I could keep the shakes away and maintain what I considered stability, silly as that is. And about 8 months ago, it really started to get bad from the perspective that I couldn't go to work in the morning without. At that point, I was still functional, although I was definitely slipping. I didn't realize it as much as I should have, but it was clearly there, and coworkers were starting to notice that. I co-own the company that I'm with, and my partner was beginning to get very frustrated with me. And so it started to create a lot of conflict. And for a long time, I had had conflict with my family, knowing that I was having problems. In fact, my wife had encouraged me about a year ago to look seriously at inpatient treatment, and I always had an excuse. Too busy, too important at work, all kinds of different excuses as to why not to pursue it. So as it progressed, it got to the point where I was really becoming pretty dysfunctional at work. And about a week before coming into Seabrook, I had a very long weekend where I had a serious binge, and it was a holiday weekend, was to go back to work on the Tuesday after, and missed going back because I was still in my binge, and did it for the next two and a half days. And during that time, really began to spiral. Started having thoughts of suicide again, which I had had in the past, and had kind of ridden out of that, but this time I really, it was really beginning to get bad. I was becoming more and more desperate, more and more feelings of helplessness, hopelessness. And I had been seeing a licensed counselor for a couple of years, and I called him up and said, I can't tell you why, but it's time, and I have to do something or I'm going to hurt myself. And so he was very familiar with Seabrook East in New Jersey, and recommended that to me, as well as the site down in Virginia where I live. And since the New Jersey site was closer to where I was working, I admitted myself. And after detoxing there for a couple of weeks, transferred over to Seabrook West, and have spent the rest of my time here.